So, hello everyone, guys. Welcome to all. Thanks for joining today's webinar. So, myself, Kushal Jhalani, I'm working as an IS engineer and I'm a part of Recro community. And Recro is a platform in which we connect the developers with the top startups of India, like Flipkart, Swiggy, Tanso, and the similar startups. Today, we have session on air updates on React Native and unboxing ES2020, and we have Nishith with us for this webinar. So, okay, so let me introduce Nishith. So, Nishith is basically he is currently working at Better Place as a senior software engineer. He has around 4.5 years of experience. Mostly, he's worked in React and React Native, and predominantly in JavaScript. And also he is a speaker in multiple developer communities across Bangalore. So yeah, so apart from this, I'm sharing you the links with our social media handles of Recro, so you can stay tuned with that for further sessions. And also you can share your feedback. I'm also sharing you the feedback form link. So yeah, guys, it's that's all from my side. And so yeah, Nishad, you can take over from now. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy, Kushal, for a quick intro. I'm Nishith again. I'm working for a company called Better Place. So I am a lead engineer there. I work around React, React Native, and anything on the JavaScript for the company. So Better Place is a company actually uh, which does a lot of tech development for the blue collar employees to make their lives better. And we have been one of the India's biggest company right now for the blue collar segment. And why I'm telling this, that is the root cause. That was a problem statement which we would arrive, and how did we solve it? And that's the entire agenda of this program. So normally we have certain devices that would be kept and which is not hardly monitored, which is not like it's not like the personal devices, like everyone goes and monitors it. So every time when we need to do a certain updates over the app, so we did not want any manual intervention to happen. So because that device is not personally monitored, it's a shared devices which will be kept on the sites where the blue collar employees work. So that was the problem statement we had. So typically the updates happen using multiple ways. Uh, the one of the mundane method is you go and update the applications over the WhatsApp, over the Play Store or over the App Store, right? So that's how the mundane updates of the applications happen. If you are quite technically evolved, like you can build your own chunk and keep it in the backend. And once the application hits, you can unzip them, and you can again build it in the application itself. So there are certain things, but we wanted something which is very reliable, and we wanted something which happens quite fast and with very less manual interventions. And we wanted something for the analytics as well. So after quite a number of research over the some of the good libraries in the open source world, after studying out, reading out a lot of Medium articles, so then I landed up to Microsoft Codepush and about the over the air updates. So, going over the agenda, like what we would be looking towards and what will be the takeaway for next 20 to 40 minutes. We'll first understand what is the air update and how does that happen, and we'll understand what are the advantages and what are the limitations of these types of updates, and the overall community practices, like how should be developer practices should be kept, uh, like what should be the update, what should be air update, and what should be not. So these types of developer practices we'll discuss, and we'll discuss about how does the air update happens, like what is the technology involved or what is the idea behind it. And then we discuss about code push predominantly, like how does that work and how does the app center work inside the code push. So we'll discuss all these things, and then we'll see a live demo of updating an application on live. So and then we can go over the references what I have done. That's in the application itself, and then we can go over a QA. And on top of this, we can discuss over the ES2020 as well, which is quite new, but it's been around released around 5 6 months back, but it's still quite new. Many developers are not actually being so friendly. So I thought of discussing that as well. So that would be the complete agenda, the takeaway from this particular presentation. Uh, so now to discuss about air update, right? So what happens when normally when we develop an application, we'll we'll go through the let us concentrate more on the Android. So like when we develop an application, so we do an AAB like Android App Bundle, or we create an APK of it, and then we'll actually put it in the Play Store, right? And if you want to release and it gets downloaded by multiple people, which whoever downloads it, and after few days or couple of months, if you want to do an update, so you would change the versioning of the application, and then you will actually rebundle it again. Then again you update in the Play Store, and the Play Store will re-verify all your compatibility of the application, and again it validates the application security and other checks, and then normally that process would take around at least 24 hours, so that you see the updated application in the Play Store. So this is a quite mundane process, but what we needed was which was quite fast and reliable, and which happens very quick. So not like every fixes we do, we did not want it to wait 24 hours. So these types of updates, which you want it as quick as possible, these updates can be done over the air. So normally when we talk about Codepush, Codepush allows updating all your JS code. Like it may be your styles, it may be the assets, or it may be all your views, JavaScript, all your skeleton, all your business logics. You can update all these things over the air. So over the air means without actually going through the Play Store or App Store process, and without actually going and updating the application, like you go and update the application. So without doing that, you can still be on the latest code what the U8 has passed. So this is one of the advantage what we really saw, and which like for our customer base who hardly that technically niche. So these for these people it was quite a beneficial thing what we saw, because we did not want them to go to Play Store every time and update for each and every fixes we do. So we did not want them to do, and it's quite fast. Like the update just happens as quick as possible. And the concept of air update has been arrived since 3 4 years. Like we have been seeing these air updates very frequently. One of the recent example I can give is of WhatsApp. You did not actually update any WhatsApp, but you still got that privacy model, right? So how did that model got triggered? It's a air update itself. Like they update your application on the over the air. So it did not happen through the Play Store update process. So this is one of the very good example which I can think of. And even in the beginning of the lockdown, when you could have opened the Amazon or any of the e-commerce applications, so you could see a model telling that we cannot deliver right now. Right? When I open Redbus, you cannot travel. So we were getting these types of models. So how did they know? Like this model should come, and actually we did not get this model after updating the application, but these things were coming just by like that, right? Without updating the applications. These things what they do, which is on live and which is based on the requirement, these things happen over the air, and both your App Store and Play Store would actually support these types of updates with certain class, which I will discuss later. So coming to the advantages, see, I have been in the dev world since 4.5 years now. Production fixes are the most rigorous fixes, where the developers have a lot of pressure. And even though the fixes are quite small and simple, but production hot fixes are very important. So let us like normally how does it happen in a web world is very different, because every time the user hits the URL, the new chunk of code which is deployed gets downloaded and he sees the new application. But in the mobile world, it's very different, right? Like for example, let us assume I'm developing something, and if payment and I'm trying to do certain payments. So what is happening? Let us assume that I'm listening for a wrong flag, like payment is success, and I'm listening to a wrong flag. And even though the payment is failure, irrespective of payment happened or not, I'm actually able to place the order, right? So these types of fixes. So now let us assume. So the production application has this bug where user can still place an order without actually doing any payment. It's a P0 defect for us, right? And if, let us assume that you have chosen a Google Play Store update for this. So what happens? You do a production fix. You fix it on your master branch or whatever your production branch. Then you release it for a testing team. And from testing team, it goes to UAT. And from UAT to DevOps team. So they create an AAB of that and update it the Play Store. Let us assume you have around 1 lakh users using your applications right now, which is of buggy thing. And now you cannot force update them, right? Until unless you wrote, until and unless you write some rigorous code, like you check the version of it, and if the version is less than the version what you have right now, then you display a model that you need to update, and you click on that update, and you go to the Play Store and you do a mandatory download of it. So until and unless you do this, it's very hard to get all people migrated, all your 1 lakh users getting migrated from your older application, from a buggy one to the new one, right? So it's quite difficult. So these types of things on air update is very simple. So one thing is you do not actually wait for everyone to update the application so that they actually come into the new application. It just happens the moment they open their application. So we can write all these logics. And the user coverage, so that's what I was telling. So if the user did not update, so it doesn't happen like that. It updates for everyone, irrespective of the user goes to the Play Store or not. If he opens the application, that is it. So the update happens. And like for example, if you did some fix and that fixes is breaking in certain changes, so rolling back and rolling out is also quite easier. Like rolling back the application, so which is very hard to do it in the Play Store perspective. So rolling back your entire application back to the previous version. So this is also very difficult. And targeting the certain user base, like for example, you have different versions of your application running in different user base, but only certain versions of your users want to get this update. So you can even configure that as well. So targeting the user base is also very possible, and you get a very proper documentation or a very proper statistics of how many users are yet to migrate and how many are migrated. So these are the certain use cases where air update really works for everyone. It's like very generic, and the delivery is very simple. Like it happens within less than a second, not at least less than few seconds. So delivery is that fast. And when you compare the Play Store approach, that takes at least a 24 hours, right? The Play Store or App Store. So these are the certain advantages of which makes a standout for your application. And and to check the production fix, certain you need the production application itself for certain bugs, right? So to do these types of fixes and to deliver something very fast, to deliver to everyone or target only certain user base, it's very easy over the air updates. So talking about the limitations, uh, one thing is very simple. See, one thing is the security vulnerability. Like for example, if you are downloading any application from not that a reputed company or a reputed developer community, like we have so many in Play Store which gets banned each year. So if you are using that kind of applications, without you getting know, they can still put some of the vulnerable code inside your application. So that is one of the major security threat we have. But if you are using the authorized applications, which are quite good from a decent developer community, then you actually do not need to bother. But if you're using a lot of third-party applications, so you cannot push the native codes. Sometimes it is an advantage as well. Like you don't, they do not write some native codes which have access to most of your device features. So you do not do that over the air. So only your business logic or the aesthetics of your application would change. That shouldn't matter a lot. But yeah, so you cannot push your native codes over the air updates. So that is also one of the important limitation, but it's quite an advantage as well, as you see. So when initially this air update was released, there are certain policies that was made so that every developer would stand, or anyone who is developing that would stand out to these policies. The first and foremost, is like when you update your application, it should not change the entire mode of the application itself. Like for example, to Play Store or App Store, you register yourself as an e-commerce application, like an e-com business one, and suddenly over the air update, because air update can change your entire functionality, right? So you cannot do that. Like you cannot turn out that e-commerce application to a gaming one, or turn out that e-commerce to an utility one. So your basic functionality of the application should remain intact. The mode of the application, what your application intended to do earlier, it should still be the same, but you can still improvise it, like bug fixing bugs or making some alignment issues. Like that is one thing that happens over the phone a lot, especially on React Native. We find that a lot. Like the weirdest bug I saw was on, it was working on certain all the Google phones, but the mutated Android phones, certain things was breaking. In OnePlus we got that, and we got it Oppo, like the alignment issues, the touch sensitivity issues. So these types of things can be tackled using the air updates. That's what they allow. So if you're not changing the entire mode of the application through air update, that is fine. But even though if you do, it still works. But whenever these people get to know, they can see you based on these policies. So that is one thing you need to be very strict of. And then if we talk about what should be the air update and what should be the placer update, the normally how it goes, it like many people have agreed to this, is like if you're doing a new feature itself, then it's always good to happen over a Play Store or an App Store. The main reason is that people get to know that the application is much more evolving, like they are giving the frequent updates and adding on more features. So users get to know because they go and update it, right? So these types of things where you add a new feature, so these types of things, it's always good for a Play Store one or an App Store one. That is one thing. And the second advantage what they get, if the user unwantedly do not download, if that feature is not at all required, like for example WhatsApp payments, I do not need that feature, right? So but I'll not update that. So it's that simple. So I do not want some unwanted code getting flushed into the application and increasing the memory size. So this is one thing which many people invariably agree. So if you're developing a new feature itself, it's always good to go over a Play Store. Apart from that, like all the bug fixes, alignments, CSS, improvisation of the existing feature, or there will be such that you revamp your code or refactoring your code. That actually doesn't happen. That doesn't actually affect anything on your UI or the user experience, but that will actually improvise your code base or the code structure, right? So these and especially refactoring, so these types of things can be pushed over the air. Like for example, if you want to create your own company's library and you need to use them, but it's not affecting any of your application functionality, but just a better coding practices you are doing, so you're just building it. So these types of things can be done over the air. So that's where you differentiate between what should be go over a Play Store approach, updating over the Play Store, or what should actually go over the air. So this is the very thin guideline we have, which is quite agreeable on the many dev communities. So coming to Codepush, which I have been telling, since a long back, since a long ago. So Codepush uh, is a OTA, like OTA means over the air. It's an open source OTA developed by Microsoft, and it is currently in its beta version, and it's absolutely free for now. And their documentation says that it would be, they are not in any plan to make it a paid version of it. So that is on the who developed it and all those stuff. And what it supports React Native a platform and the Cordova platform. So these are the two, but they are telling that React Native is much more being used as a in Codepush. That's what they say. And their documentation is pretty simple and pretty elaborative. Like anyone who goes to App Center, uh, uh, Codepush docs, so they can easily pick it up, and it's very easy. And as I said earlier, there is no native code pushing option, but only your JS and AI assets. And code push is right now is the fastest way to update apps over the air. So this is one of the very huge advantage of having code push on your system or on your on your development side. So understanding how this actually works, it's very simple to see. Like for example, let us take just this. Like we have a repository, and let us assume that you have some JS code, native code, both Android and iOS on the React side. So you bundle it for the first time, and you publish to the App Store or Play Store as 1.0, like version 1.0, and that gets downloaded multiple times by many people across the world, right? And now your dive cycle will start growing. Like you check out a branch from your production branch, and you keep on adding new bug fixes or new features, right? Or very pretty small features or pretty animations, or especially after it goes to production, you still have a lot of backlogs to do. So these things will grow up, and that would be, let us assume that are predominantly JavaScript. So and so these things, whatever your JS code are there, it is actually gets bundled and stored it in the App Center server, and with certain configurations. Configurations in the sense you can tell the Microsoft App Center when to update and how to update, and uh, like what are the conditions to update. So these are certain things you can configure over the App Center. And like for the existing, so the moment you do this, and let us assume the user application which is already there, let us assume it is integrated with the code push. The moment the application opens, or whatever the conditions you had written as a part of a configuration, it pings the Microsoft's application server that do I have any update, or is my code what I have and the code base what you have, is there any version changes. If there is a version change and he is a target user, then the new application bundle, what you already pushed to Microsoft App Center, that gets downloaded to the user's application. So after that, the moment the application goes to uh, hidden, or it just clears off, the moment the application fires the next time, you will see the update that that the JS code has done. So this is the updation of applications over the air. This the block diagram. How does the air update happens? And rolling out is also the same thing. Like you just go to the previous version and tell that this is a mandatory push, or you can go above the one version and tell that this is a mandatory push, commenting out whatever you have done. So again it comes and you see the version changes, and then again the application gets downloaded. So this is how the basic idea of code push and how it's actually work. So going to the App Center, I'll just show how the Microsoft App Center works. Yeah. So this is the code push what we have. Like for example, I'll just log out and log in. No, yeah, yeah. So this is the App Center, and I have logged in on my name. It's my personal account, and I have created certain application called Air Update for today's demo. Right? You can see that application in the App Center, telling that it's an Android, and once you go here, you can see a lot of things. for these building and testing it online. So all these things are available as a part of a paid services, which currently it's not the scope of the uh, presentation or the webinar. But if you see distribution, you see releases, like you can actually do a lot of releases. You can do the entire Play Store management here. But there is something called Codepush, which we are pretty much interested. Since and ago, like I have been using this, so you see a lot of versions, right? Version 1, version 2, and version 7 and version 9. So today I did at 1:35 p.m. I updated the application, and uh, after that I also yeah, so there are certain things like when I was telling, yeah, there's certain thing called promote, like this will make it as a mandatory one. And if I want to version 7 to be promoted, like for example version 8 is there and I want version 7 to be coming for the next, so this promote will enable us to roll back the application. Yeah, so without, yeah, coming to that, so there are a lot of versions. We'll try to create another version, and we'll try to do some mandatory update and we'll show it. Apart from that, we can configure a lot of environments as well. Like if you have staging, UAT, production, you can trace it based on your environment flags, even that is also there. And if you see deployments, so there are, you can add your new deployments here, so that is one thing. And it generates a different type of key, and these key are used for the library linking. So how does Microsoft code push identify that it's a production push? By this particular key, which we will actually use it in the library linking, which I'll show you shortly. So this on the App Center, and you'll get to know like what are the targeted versions. Like if my version is 1.0, then only this update happens. So this what I was talking about, the targeting user base. And you can see that number of devices. Currently only I have that application. So this version 8 is only I have, and I can show you this on live as well, but just to give the gist of how App Center works. So this is on the App Center and the Codepush, and it has a very good uh, documentation, which is very simple to how to integrate and how to do all these stuffs is very much easily said. But apart from that, I give access to my code as well. So the commits are much vividly, so you can see the linking code and you can get the what all the steps I have taken to link this library. Coming back to the OTA presentation, uh, then let's see, like I've been telling about live. So how do we do that and how can I show it? I have something connected. This is my mobile right now. You could see just live, and I have this air update, and you see this is an application which have most of the links of here. So there is no model coming in, or there is no, let us try to invoke certain model over the code and we'll push it, so that the next time I open my application I should get that model. So we'll do that particular coding activity. So I have written a certain component called alert here, which just tell that hey there, not to steal certain privacy, just checking if update work. This is the text, and I'm just calling this up just to tell about the application structure. I just have the just a create React Native app, and I just have something called home, which renders, and inside home I'll just call that alert, right? So I'm just calling inside a main wave. I need to check what I've named that component. Name it as alert. I've named it as small alert. Okay, so now I've actually updated this. So this one alert that comes up whenever I open the application, and I was telling about the configuration of the code push, right? So how to configure that? It's very simple. Like there is an index.js, which is the main entry source to your React application, and you have something called app, where you write most of your logics, uh, mostly predominantly your Redux logics, Redux integration, and your navigation integration. So that's where app.js is mainly used. So here there is something called Codepush that is coming from a React Native Codepush, and it's a HOC component. You see that I am passing certain options, and I am overing it to the application. So it's just wraps this over the app component. And these are the configuration I was actually mentioning about. So to check about a lot of things, let me tell about the frequency. Like we have something called as okay, so we have something called as on app start, and if you see our on app start is like every time the application starts freshly. On app resume is like you minimize the application, and whenever you open, it resumes. That is on app resume. And there is something called manual. So manual allows you to like for example, CRUD does this. I'm not telling that it's using Corpus, but you can see this experience in CRUD. Like the moment there's an update available, so CRED tells that do you want to update this application or not. And if you click OK, then it tells that you can use this application by while we update your application in the background. And the application will update in the background. And the next time you use that application, you get that particular updated one, right? So it tells you that tells the user that there is a download that's happening. So that is on the manual. Like you can trigger the update on click on certain events, right? So that is one thing. And you can by rearranging this, like adding, you can get the download percentage, a download bar as well. And if update successful or failure, you can get all these events so that you can give a better user experience to the user. Let us not consider those things right now, but these are certain possibilities what you can get over the code push. So for example, now I'll do something called on app start. So every time the application starts freshly, it will check, it will ping the Microsoft application server telling that do I have any update. If no, then it just simply keeps quiet. If yes, then it silently just gets downloaded. And the next time whenever I open my application, you can see. So this is quite good. On app resume is very rigorous. Like every time it keeps on checking that frequency is not required. If you ask me personally, until unless you are not updating your applications every now and then. So keeping this now, and if you see the my home.js, which has certain alerts, and let me, okay, I'll try to add certain colors as well, just for giving it, getting it more. I'll just add background color as uh, light gray. Okay, I'm adding this as well. So now I do not even like I need to commit this, like if it's a project or anything. But let us assume that I have committed these changes, and I have you have all this access to this code base entirely on the GitHub, so you can see all this code. I have written something called as commands.txt, which have all these commands, which we just need for this application. So just to understand what this command actually say, to register your application in the code push, this is the command you need to use, like apocenter. Uh, you tell that you need to create an application with a name Air Update and with an operating system Android and a platform React Native, because your code push supports both React Native and Cordova platform. So that tells that Air Update is a React Native platform and has an Android operating system, and it creates the basic production staging keys for you. And this is the application name, and this is the production. If I want a staging, then I just need to put staging here. and we would use those keys in uh, Android strings.html. We will just put that there. That's a part of library linking, which I'll show you quite later. Uh, so now I'm just copying this command, and I'm just pasting it over the terminal. So if you see, it's actually started its production push. And by the time, if you see the app center, uh, you see it's my device, which is currently on version 8. Okay, so the moment the production push happens, you see a new version coming. Normally it doesn't take this much amount of time as well, but due to a lot of process running, it's taking. So this is the target version, like anyone who is using version 1.0 would get this build. If you see, a bundle file is already written, and uh, so this is the target version you have, and 1.0x is your release version. Okay, so now we have that air update, which is ready to show. And coming to the Microsoft App Center, and I'm just refreshing this. Okay, so if you see, there's a new version called version 9, and which no one has actually installed this. And the application which I'm showing right now in the visor, yeah. So this has application as a version 1.8, so yeah, version 1.0.8. So I'm just clearing the application here, so because I've given as app on start. The moment the start happens, you see the code chunk gets downloaded here at this part of instance. So the moment it gets downloaded, we would not see that update, but I'm just minimizing it and I'm just doing it. And if you see now, you see the model which we have already did, which came as a OTA. And you see the background is not changed. I guess I wrote it in a wrong way, which I'm not using. But yeah, so that is on the uh, Codepush right now. And if you want to see how the App Center responds to that, is I'm just refreshing my App Center. Yeah, so now you see the version 8 what I had. Now that device just got updated to version 1, sorry, version 9, and there's one active device in that. So that is on the air update. And if you want to, if you are very keen on the linking, it's not that tough. Uh, like I can show you that as well. In this PPT, I have shared that link. Yeah, this is my GitHub link. Yeah, so the link of the PPT is already shared. So if you go to, if you go to commits here, so there is something called as Android setup. Okay, if you just look over this commit is entirely for Android linking. So this is the only thing we wanted to do. So if the understanding documentation is pretty hard, like if you do not have that much amount of time, this is the best thing you can look for. And I was telling about the deployment key, right? So this is the deployment key which we will use. This is the production deployment key. You need to add it as a string.xml as a part of linking, so that it gets to know some algorithm it uses to make sure that this is the version which we need to update. Like for example, if you have both production and your staging application installed, so for rectifying it or for recognizing it, probably it uses this key. but this is how the entire linking goes. So it's just very small minimal changes we have on this part. And like if you're asking about uh, what is the javascript part is very less. You just need to uh, wrap the code push app options with the application. Not only app, like not only at this point, even you can do it at the lower end as well. So like only certain component you want it to get pushed, so you can do that as well. So even that supports. So that is on the entire thing on the code push. Like one of the feature which I would want Microsoft to actually implement is the dynamic delivery, like dynamic delivery of certain features. So that is one thing. It would be very good if Microsoft have already started working on it, or if they would release. But I have made a feature request for that, providing a dynamic delivery using code push, which they can actually do. So that is it on the code push end. Now let us go over certain topics on ES 2020, like which you could change, which can give us a lot of good what do you say methods to solve certain easier things or complex things. So it's been around 5 6 months I have started using all these things, but I see many people in my company or in the companies I work with or developers community I have uh, conversed with. Many people are yet to use these very good features what we have. So I'll try to demo it over the code sandbox. The link is in the PPT itself. So anytime if you want to use or just to see how it works, you can come here. So there are around 5 to 6 functions as a part of new functions the JavaScript is giving as a part of ES 2020 standard. uh, to use ES 2020 in regular React. Nowadays, if you do using create React app, it automatically comes. Else, you need to use this as a config. You need to add the configuration as a preset in Babel, or you need to add a library. Babel preset library is there, so you need to add that. Else, you would not be able to use ES 2020 in your projects. But that's a dev dependency that is not going to anything to do with uh, your uh, your production applications. And if you want to see that how what are the browser supports, there is one beautiful website called caniuse.com, I guess. Yeah. So this is the website that predominantly tells if that method is good to use or not. We'll just check that as well. Okay, so coming to this, so there's something called match all, which is I'll try to explain like where it can be used as well. Uh, but now for now let us go to match what we already have, and I'm just consoling it. Okay, so consider a string we have, right? So if I'm writing a regular expression, okay, so which actually satisfies the strings. If you want to again match these substrings, right? Again, you need to put this array and for each, or you need to map it over it, and again you need to run this regex. That's the usual approach if you want to get the regular expressions for the substrings as well. So for that, there's something called a match all, which we have, which actually matches all the strings. Like for example, test1 has a substring, and it has a substring of EST1 and 1. So this is match all. It works for particular. It works for uh, one depth, and test2 also have this particular array, which matches all these array. Like you get the substring of a part of regex, and it again tries to match that with the regex whatever you have for a level deep one. So this is one which can be used for multiple things, like if you want to check for certain complex regular expressions for username or passwords. Not all the criteria, but certain conditions, like if you uh, need to have. So this one thing which you can use, which we have from ES2020. And after that, this is also one quite thing. This is a part of dynamic import. You can start importing as a more like a promise. So let us, for example, let us assume that I have a huge file, which I like. Let us assume that it's a 1 MB file, and only on certain conditions I need to show that. So loading a 1 MB file every time the DOM loads is pretty. Like it works more like a promise itself. You import and you give the path and dot, then you get that module, and uh, this is the module whatever you have. Like it gives all the it exposes want to return. So that is on the dynamic import. So you do not simply import everything. It is quite sensible for only large files, like more than 500 KB or 1 MB, so that your bundled size is quite lesser. So this is one of the good example what we have got, what I can think of. React code split does this in a different way, but this can be done much more consciously. Uh, but code splitting is a different thing, but this is also can help you to load the initial build time. So this is one of the important thing, and it can be accessed over if as well. Like if you need it immediately without any event triggering, so you can use it over the if as well. So that is the if part. Yeah, so this over the like this part waits for an event to occur, and this doesn't. So so it just imports and executes. So this is the iffy one. And this is one of the very good method actually. I really like which I wanted and we got. So let us assume, okay, to just tell this. Okay, I'm just clearing the console. Yeah, like for example, I have three promises: promise one, promise two, and promise three. And I'm resolving first promise, and I'm rejecting the second one, and I'm resolving the third one. So if you want to listen to like what happens if any one of them fails, right? So you get everything in a catch. I can show you. Yeah, you can see, right? A promise rejected error. So this is the one thing. So this got my promise, second promise got rejected. So I'm not able to get the values of P1 and P3, which is already resolved. I'm not telling we cannot get, but you need to write some extra code for all those things when you are doing promise.all. So if any one of these APIs fail or anything that is failing, like let us assume that you are calling 100 APIs at a time, and out of one of them failed, and it's quite hard, right? So to actually find out which got failed, so you need to write a lot of code. Like for example, if you want to catch it independently, then you need to write a p1 dot catch, and you need to this is the right method if you want to really catch error independently. Yeah. So for example, if you know the array, you can do it. But sometimes, for example, we had got one of these types. Uh, what the use case was like, we get the image URL from the all the employees images from the backend. We get the URL, and we need to hit that URL to get all the employee images blob. So the moment all the employee list comes in, so we again do a promise.all. We would have around 100 array, like 100 array elements. To having dot catch for each thing was strenuous, and it was quite impossible to have as well. Like we cannot do it for everything. So that this particular use case can be actually solved, and we actually have started using it everywhere, like using promise.all settled. So I can show you that. I'm just clearing the console for better understanding. So okay, so okay, so if you see now, okay, so we are getting something called object, 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 and uh, if you expand this, you will see status fulfilled and promise resolved, right? And that is the actually the value I had given. Uh, I'm commenting this as well. Okay, so this is the promise resolved value I had given. So you get the value, and this status you get as rejected, and you can see the reason like why it got rejected. That's the error. And if you see P3, that also got fulfilled. So you can get the index, like which index have actually got rejected, and you get to know which API actually has failed, and you can re-trigger it. So this is one of the very good method which we have actually started using in most of our projects. Rather than promise.all, we are using promise.all settled, and this quite it made our life very easier as does. And coming to there's something new operator that they have introduced called as null list coalescing operator. The operator syntax is up to question mark. So what this do, like for example, we would have like when we work on forms, right? Especially forms, we see that 0 is a valid input. But let us, for an example, let us take your uh, number of cigarettes you smoke daily, and it's a required field, and you have list of form. If all form fields are filled, then only you need to enable your submit button. If that is the use case, the 0 is a valid input, right? 0 is acceptable. But if you do if of 0, 0 is a false. So 0 is recognized as still as a false value. So to avoid this, okay, we have something called as null list coalescing operator, which tells only null and undefined value are the false value for this particular operator. So rest everything are actually true for it. Like for example, I'll just try to show this one small example I can give. Just trying to I'm just trying to yeah. Okay, so I have null value here. So okay, so here what I'm doing, I'm trying to get the default value. So if the null value is null, then I get the default. So for example, let me take it 0. So you got default and 0, right? Because uh, the default is given by the line number 52. I can show you. Yeah, you can see default is given by line number 52, because for or operator or any if operator, any boolean operator, uh, 0 uh, is actually a false value, right? So that's why it gives default. But for a null coalescing operator, 0 is a valid value. So 0 null coalescing default, you get 0 as an output. So that is the one of the good operator we have. And even the empty string, like you can see, I'll just put empty string, empty text. Yeah, so if I do empty text, even empty text is a valid value for your null list coalescing operator. So if you see, you get default for the or operator, because this is false and this is true, so it picks the default. But for the or this operator, this value is always true. Like the if empty text is a valid value, it's a true value for it. So nullish closing operator would treat only null and undefined as a falsy operator, as a falsy value. Rest everything would be a true value for it. So this can be actually again, they have expanded it to optional chaining. This help us to remove the ternary operator or remove the lodash get. Like for example, let us take this as an example. Okay, so let us assume that you get an API response which may have this optional value or may not have it. So if you just directly try to print like values dot optional value dot key, what it does, if optional value is not there, then your application would break. Normally, how do we handle it is like we use lodash get operator, and we just iterate, we just use the get operator. But there is a new operator which is given by the JavaScript itself, which is optional chaining. Like for example, what it does is I'm telling this is just the ternary operator case, right? So using the optional chaining, how we can do is like values question values question dollar optional value. Okay, so operator. So for example, if let us assume that this doesn't exist. Okay, so I need to use here as well. Okay, so this is coming undefined, but let us go here, and I'm telling that present. Okay, so what this actually doing, it goes to the value and check if this exists. If this does not exist, then it comes to the present. So your application doesn't break. Like you can go over the nth using this particular thing. So if this optional value doesn't exist, your application doesn't break. Like for example, if I use this, now your application gets broken, right? You cannot go deep. You get this error, key is undefined, is not present. So if you use this optional chaining, make it is just optional. Like this chaining may exist or may not exist. So if it exists, it doesn't actually break your application. So you get either undefined, which is good. So that is optional chaining. So this is one of the new operators. So there are uh, nullish coalescing is a new operator we have, and to summarize, and optional chaining is a new operator, and these are the two operators which are got introduced. And promise that all settled is a new method we got, and import is a new function we got. Method like having import method now works as a promise as well. That is one, and match all. So like whatever the demo I have shown here, so this is actually present in the PPT link as well. So you can go over it and you can experiment around it if you had missed anything. So that is it I have you guys for everyone. So that's my time. So we can open the questions for QA.
Yeah, hi Nishith. It's been a great session. So Nishith, we have few questions in the question tab, so you can take questions from.
Yeah, I'm just looking over the questions now. Uh, yeah, regarding crash analytics, I do not have made any such research, uh, Rizwan. I'm not sure if the documentation says that it should be. We need to use something else apart from Codepush. But yeah, if Codepush doesn't figure it out, probably you can. Like if you know these limitations, you can raise it as a feature request, so they get to know that community needs it, so and they can work on it. So that is one thing we can do. And the next question is like air update works like a CI/CD tool. Yeah, it's more like a CI. It's not exact CI/CD tool. It has a lot of tech as well, but yeah, you can tell that uh, it's not that part of a DevOps as well. You just need to run one command, and the code push happens over certain configurations what we set. So it is just you just deploy it, and how does that get downloaded is the configuration what you have set. So yeah, you can tell that it's more like a CI/CD tool. No, that cannot be done. Like Amazon changes logo. How did that update? Uh, through code push, you cannot change the logo, because when you start changing the application logo, you have some native code which you need to do, which you need to write, right? So there's something called icon MDPI and XDPI. There are certain Android files or iOS icon files which you need to do. So this cannot be done over the code push. So only that should happen over a Play Store approach, or there should be certain thing on the Play Store for the native application, how it should actually air update. Probably they have used that as well, but that is not possible over the code push. I think I just okay. I have installed the JavaScript plugin for new features. It also can I publish the latest build? Yeah. I sorry, I just forgot to use this. Can I use, like, for example, let us go over all settled, which we have looked in. Now if you see, like, promise that all settled is actually, like, if your client base ask, like, there are certain US clients which I had worked with, they need to support I11. So if I11 is a prime support, then you cannot use all settled. Like, not even all settled. Like, let us try this includes. Okay, so I includes is not supported in I11. See, so you cannot use includes as well. So if you are supporting any client that has I11, then forget about using ES2020. You cannot use ES6 properly. But if you see rest, like all, let us go to all settled now and just see this. I use this website a lot to check what we can do. If you see the edge, you can see the global percentage. Normally we actually support Chrome, Edge, Firefox, uh, and Chrome Android, and iOS Safari and Safari. These are the browsers we officially support. From we officially support. So I just see this, like, if I can use this or not, and if it is usable, then yeah, like, I'll go ahead. Normally the open source standard is you need to support uh, at least plus or minus 5 versions of the browser what we currently have. So this is one thing you can actually think if you are using new methods and if you can deploy or not. So, and use this website for all these things, like for all the JavaScript related thing, which browser supports and which browser does not. And you get to know the user base as well, like what is the user base you have. Yeah, coming back to that. If you want to push the React Native update, did native code shall we update? No, you cannot put the native code. The native code doesn't get bundled. That is the strict rule they have. So two questions are done. And any more questions? You can open your mic as well.
Yeah, guys. If anyone wants to ask any question, you can raise your hand, or and then you can have an option to unmute your audio or video. One more question we got. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So in terms of code perspective, like, for example, let us take the application is already in production. And if you want to integrate Codepush, you just need to go to your main file and add it as a HOC with valid configurations. And for configurations, you can refer their documentation. You can play around a lot of things, like using the show the download progress bar, tell the tell them thank you for downloading, or you can do all those fancy stuff with their configurations. Like you can do all those possibilities. They expose those methods to you as well, methods to the developers to make it much more responsive to the user. So in terms of coding, nothing else. But the first time when you integrate Codepush, you need to allow it through a Play Store itself. One of the main reasons is it has native code again, and the first push should be done on the Play Store. And once everyone updates that, then you can go over the Codepush usual process what I showed. Yeah, new React package. If it doesn't require linking, then you can use in the code push. Like that is possible, because if it is just a JavaScript chunk. But if you need anything that requires linking, so that cannot be used as a part of new package. And assets, no, all the types of assets you can pass, so that is fine. Like they do not have any such limitations as far as I know. Because assets are normally a SVG file or PNG, right? So that it supports. uh, Documentation for the user is there's this one, React code push. Everything I have learned or I have researched is on this particular itself. So it has a no, sorry, this is the Git page, which is their documentation. Then, okay, so this is the documentation actually I have. React Native code push. Annotated app plugin usage. Now, this is the very good documentation. Apart from that, they have one official docs apart from their GitHub page. I think, yeah, this is the one thing they have. Uh, how do you integrate? So this entire code push you have, and you have all the configurations, how to check all this code pushify your app. So here you have all these things, and releasing, how do you release? So these are certain things which I had picked and I had shown. And on the configuration, you can get it most on the of here itself, tutorials. Actually I forgot that link where I had seen. Yeah, so this is the silent mode you have. On immediate is one thing, on next restart, on next resume, and you have all. And code push dot sync, if you want to, this is used for the manual trigger. Like if you want to click on a button and then you want to sync, so this is the code push sync method you would get. And yeah, you can. And this is the dialog customization, like you have an update available install, then you get yes, you get no. And you can do all this stuff. And the custom mode, like if you want to have your own status, like on status change, checking for update, so what should happen, so you can do all those things here. And you get on error, on downloading progress, you get the download progress. And yeah, and you can actually automate your deployments. So you can try all those things. It is just these sessions are just like, I can put it here. I'm just putting this in the link as well, so people can get it. I think I need to put it at the chat. Yeah, you can experiment it a lot, and it doesn't take much. It takes certain attention from you, but you can experiment a lot on these things. Yeah, and Cool. If I update through Codepush, will it update the previous versions of my app? Yeah, you can configure that, like which target version. Like you can tell 1 or above, so you can do that as well. Like 2 or above will actually update version 2, 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, 3, 3.1, 3.3. So that can be done. And can code push be used before the app is deployed to the push? Yeah, you can use the code push there, but the first application should be deployed over the Play Store, and it should be downloaded over the Play Store. So that can be done. But before is uh, like for example, your application is already in the Play Store and it has downloaded, and now if you want to push the code push itself to the application, that is not possible. You need to go over the Play Store approach for the initial code push to get downloaded by all the users, like that particular build, and then you can start. If the app is not in the Play Store, like Play Store, why do we use Play Store a lot? Because that is the official Android one. But irrespective of Play Store or not, it works. It is just that it pings the your app center and just downloads the build. So that is fine. But if that APK should exist, like for example, the Air update I showed, that is not in the Play Store. It just exists on my device. Thanks, Manoj, for the feedback. I really love that. Thanks, Varun. It really means a lot. And thanks, Kushal, for hosting me and
Yeah.
getting people around. And to be very honest, Recro is doing a great job for the people around for developing their knowledge base and creating a platform where we can share knowledge and we can learn things. So I have been attend. I have even I have also attended certain Recro sessions, but this is the first time as a speaker, and I had a great time with you, Kushal.
Yeah, thanks, Nishith. Same, yeah. So thank you so much for this amazing session, guys. Thank you so much for having a great audience, and guys, you can follow our social media handles and stay tuned for the upcoming sessions. And also, you can tell us or you can recommend us like for further topics for the sessions. You can suggest us the topics to take, or you can also recommend us a speaker as well. So stay tuned in the community, and also like basically we have the intention to have take such a good technical topics on which we can discuss and sharing our knowledge, so everyone can build up their knowledge and technical skills. So if you have found any great topic or any topic, if you think like that is good to take for particular session, so you can suggest that topic, and also you can suggest any speaker to us. And also you can join our WhatsApp community. We shared the link for the same, and our social media handles here.
Yeah.
So that's all, guys. Thank you so much.
And one small announcement from my end, we are actively hiring for our company. We are looking for some better minds to work with us. So I'll drop my email ID to in the chat session. So anyone who is looking out for working, so can get in touch. So I can refer you guys.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks, Krishna.
Thanks, Isha. One more thing, guys. You will find this today's session recorded video on our YouTube channel. So if you miss out or any of your friend today would not able to attend the session, so you can share the link and so that they can watch it later as well. And also you can also watch it later for your reference. And it would be great if you guys can would share your our today's session experience or feedback or at our YouTube channel once the video gets uploaded, and also on your LinkedIn and Instagram handles. So that would be great, and you can tag Recro in your post. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.